Welcome to this rapid revision session on the Freedom Summer of 1964, an important event that sadly included the deaths of the three people pictured. More of that in a moment. What was the Freedom Summer of 1964? Although the numbers of black people registering to vote had gone up in some areas, in the Deep South, black people were prevented from voting. So what did SNCC and CORD do about this? In the election year of 1964, around 1,000, mostly white, volunteer students from the North went to the South to teach black people how to pass the voting registration tests, which were deliberately skewed to make them fail. But what was the backlash? Mississippi's 10,000 Ku Klux Klan members saw this as an invasion. They intimidated the volunteers and black voters by burning 61 crosses across the state as a visible reminder that in their view this was Klan country and they were in control, by burning 37 black people's churches and 30 homes, and by beating up SNCC and CORD volunteers and potential voters. But that wasn't all. There were also murders. An example of the murderous backlash, and probably the most famous one, was the June 1964 Mississippi murders. On June the 21st, two white CORD volunteers, Andrew Goodman and Michael Schwerner below, and one black volunteer were arrested after an event. All of them were young students. They were released, but they never arrived home. Their burnt-out car was found 2 days later, and you can see it pictured on the right. One wonders if the police had tipped off some of the local Ku Klux Klan that they had just been released, and that they should be, in their view, dealt with. However, during the search for these three victims, the bodies of 8 black men, 3 of them CORD workers, were found soon after. These were not people that they had initially been looking for, but it shows how widespread the violent backlash was. The white volunteers were found dead on August the 3rd, in a shallow grave. This shocked the nation, but there is something perhaps slightly uncomfortable to recognise about this. One of the reasons it shocked the nation, and one of the reasons why it became so famous, was not because of James Chaney. The deaths of black activists or just black people in the Deep South was sadly very commonplace. But the deaths of middle-class white students like Andrew Goodman and Michael Schwerner were far less common, and that's what grabbed the headlines. That's not to say that their lives were worth more than James Chaney's, or any of the black men who had been found in the search. But it does show how the news articles of the time were skewed in favour of white people, and it took that to get these different murders recognised in the public. So, at this tremendous cost, what did the Freedom Summer actually achieve? There are two main views or interpretations on what the Freedom Summer actually achieved. I'm not suggesting that these speech bubbles were actually said by the people pictured, but I wanted to give the sense of a conversation between two people arguing their different points of view. After the Freedom Summer, 1,600 more black people had registered to vote in Mississippi. That's got to be a good thing. True, but that's out of 17,000 who tried to register. Not good odds. Sure, but the Freedom Summer made people aware of the problems that people face trying to register to vote. Also true, but people were beaten up, lost their jobs, or even murdered for standing up for their rights. So that shows the two different views here. One suggesting that the Freedom Summer actually achieved some useful aims, and the other suggesting that actually it was probably at a cost that wasn't worth it. Which do you agree with? If you wanted to, you could do these follow-up tasks. But if not, and you're just using this for a bit of revision, we could just move on. If you want to do the tasks, pause here. If not, we'll move on to our final summary. Some final points then. The Freedom Summer was an attempt by CORD to support the cause of voting rights. Southern racists saw it as a provocative invasion by Northern agitators, and the Ku Klux Klan launched a terrorising backlash. The deaths of 3 CORD members in the Mississippi murders of June 1964 raised awareness of violence and the cause of voting rights, but mostly because white activists had been killed. The Freedom Summer did increase the number of black voters, but its effectiveness has been disputed. That concludes this rapid revision session. I hope it's been useful to you, and if it has, please like the video. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Other than that, I'll say thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.